Welcome to Real Talk with Leigh Brown. Today I've got one of the few, the proud, and the rare repeat guest, Kent Redding from Austin, Texas. If you remember from the last time Kent was with me, and if you don't, here's the link. We were talking about some of the things going on in Austin, and I got super excited about the Community First program, which has some truly impactful things going on to improve the lives of those in the homeless community. This is all about personalization and dignity, and frankly, what you can do in your life to make things a little better all around you. So enjoy this conversation with Kent. Maybe you'll go back with some ideas about how you can make an impact, and I'll see you on the other side. My audience has seen you before, Kent, and so I appreciate you coming back on the show. You're now in an elite club of repeat visitors.
I know. I was so thrilled. You made my day when I literally walked out of this last time, and Michelle said, "Hey, she wants you back." And I'm like, okay, good. I must not have sucked.
You never suck. But you know what? The fun part is when the conversations are organic, you spouted off about something. And I said, we got to talk about that some more, because when we look around our world, it doesn't matter what city you're in. It doesn't matter what state, what price point you work in. You're going to see somebody homeless on the side of the road, under an overpass. And I think it's part of the human condition that we see that and say, this is not good. And we want to be a part of something that's helpful. And as you and I both know, the government has lots of good intentions, but they're not equipped to do what you and I can do on the ground as individuals. And so I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about the project that you've been working on in Austin, Texas, with the Austin Board of Realtors and with what you do in your life. And tell them a little bit about Community First, and then we'll just start asking some questions.
Sure. No, that's great. Well, what I've learned, Leigh, is that we have a misconception of the homeless and those that live on the street. And so we seem to dismiss it when we drive up, right? We just think, oh, they're just buying drugs and alcohol. I'm not going to look. I'm just going to hold my steering wheel and go straight ahead. And the humanity of it, in my opinion, gets lost. People don't get up in the morning and first things think, you know what? I just want to live on the streets. That's my plan for the day, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. And it's really the chronic loss of community, that it's not housing that solves homelessness. It's the chronic loss of community. The difference between that person we run into on a street corner or somewhere else, they don't have the safety net you and I do. You know, Leigh, you and I and your listeners, we're not going to fall to the streets. If we mess up in life and do some things that put us in a bad situation, we have a safety net around us. We're all going to catch each other and we're not going to end up on the street corner. But there are just certain people that unfortunately don't have that safety net, and they don't have the family and they don't have the community to support them. And I've learned that one of the real keys is just ask them your name. Like this is, to me, is just magical that I can walk up and say, my name's Kent. What's yours? And once you know their name, it just changes everything. I don't know how to describe it, but they become a person and a human, on God's earth that we are called to care for. They're not just this name, blind face that we drive past. And that has been really important in my journey to get to understand this better over the last 10 or 15 years.
Well, and it goes to the heart of what sales looks like. You can read Dale Carnegie, Influence Friends and Influence, or Win Friends and Influence People, or Zig Ziglar, and nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care. Everything always goes back to eye to eye, knowing a name. And it's not just when it benefits us in our professional lives. It is absolutely, as you mentioned, it's our communities. And I wish I could put some fireworks around what you said when you said this is not so much about housing as it is community, because when people are completely disconnected, you could put them in a house and it won't matter. I mean, we see plenty of people in despairing lives inside housing if they are completely carved out and they maybe have not been reminded that they matter. And I think that's at the core of what you're talking about with the name piece. You are reminding them, yes, you were born and created, and the world may have not noticed you, but I did. And if Kent notices you, then somebody else must have. And it's a government can't solve this like humanity can, because the government is pretty much a faceless, nameless blob. But you and I don't have real estate businesses because we're faceless and nameless. We have a business because we do enjoy sitting down and listening to people, and that can convey into the community as well, which is why I love that your focus has been helping realtors understand what they can do in this space, because by our nature, we really enjoy people. So for you getting started in helping in this space, I feel like a lot of the listeners and viewers out there have wanted to do something, but they don't even know where to start. So can you share a little bit about your journey of how you got involved in this space and what it looked like to find your way to making that first contact where you said, "My name's Kent"?
Yeah, for sure. There was one in particular that I remember, and this has been about 10 or 15 years ago, but there was a person that sat at a particular intersection, a lady, and she covered herself in a veil, like a sheer veil, not like a sheet. You could still see through it, but like it was a pink veil. And I would drive by her, Leigh, every day. And all I could think of was, this is the worst panhandler ever. Like, she's not holding anything out, and you're scaring people, right? Like, I don't want to get out of I don't even know what's under the veil. So one day, I think I was listening to Matthew West's song about why don't you do something. He has a song called "Do Something," and I just remember thinking, I got to do something. And I literally pulled over in a parking lot, got out of my car, walked over, sat down on the sidewalk next to her, and said, "Hey, my name's Kent." And her name was Tony. And that was really a moment of shift for me. But I found out more that I literally told her, "You're awful at this. You're the worst panhandler I've ever seen." And she laughed, and we just created this friendship over the years. Just me trying to understand her. And what I really learned was we make a mistake when we think we assume what somebody else wants. Like, she didn't need another bag with a water bottle and socks. They were piled up, next to the street sign because people tossing them out their window. So I learned, do you want to ask, what is your biggest need right now? Like, what do you need right now? And in this particular case, it was, well, I love yogurt and I love bananas. And, she like shared, and I just went, bought those things, brought it back. And that started a relationship that literally to this day, I think that's been 10 or 12 years. We still text. I still keep up with her to see how she's doing. But it really opened, it's not really about me. It just opened my eyes to our assumptions of what people need, but because we're just not asking that question, right? And so in Austin, one thing that we have that the Austin Board of Realtors has been actively a part of is called Community First Village. And it was started from a ministry called Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And it was a ministry of, think taco trucks, right? Taco trucks that go to construction sites. And about in the late 90s, early 2000s, Alan Graham, pretty well-known fella here in Austin, started getting these trucks, Mobile Loaves and Fishes, and going out to homeless and bringing food and just starting relationships all over the city. I think there was 13 to 15 trucks. And one really important part that I've learned from that is that to offer dignity and help, not just help. So all the food's prepared by hand, fresh, presented in a way that raises people up with dignity and doesn't put them down. And then that ministry grew into Alan raised funds and bought some RVs around town and lifted our neighbors off the street that are in the margins into RVs, and then started building support around that. How do we support them? How do we support their mental health and provide that with dignity? And then that grew into about 10 years ago, 2015 or so, they broke ground on a tiny home community called Community First Village. And the idea was to cluster these homes around services that are provided so that it's a collaborative, community-based service, and also to provide them with a new home. And they pay rent. There's rent. They're responsible for that, even though it's a modest rent, but they have to have some type of income. And the whole thing is to build up their self-esteem and get a transition back into community and build around them, but they've lost that's why they where they are. And it's just exploded over the years. Originally, nobody wanted it in their backyard. The really backstory to this is they were trying to buy 50, 60, 70 acres and start this, and it took years because Nobody wanted in their backyard. Now, literally everybody in the city is standing up to talk about it, and news crews across the country are coming to see it. And it, everybody wants to be associated with Community First, but originally couldn't get anybody on board. It's expanded. About 400 residents live in the original community now, and there's 4 more expansions already started and underway. And eventually, they'll house about 1,900 to 2,000 neighbors off the street, which is about half the population. Homeless population in Austin is about 3,500. So the idea is half of them will have services and home and people around them, and they'll have an address. When there's some specific intentionality around having your own address and taking mail at your own place, and paying rent, even though the rent may be $235 a month or $300 a month, they are responsible. And a lot of that can come from their VA benefits, their Social Security benefits, whatever the individual has that maybe they don't have access to because they don't know how to get it. And so services are set up to help connect them with those service that'll help them be able to pay the rent. And also they work out there. They have contracts to work. There's gardens, there's, chickens and eggs, and there are many crafts. Some people do art. It's amazing how talented the community is that lives in the margins. And sometimes they make jewelry, and there's markets. And so they're encouraged to self-fund themselves. And one thing really important about Community First is from the beginning, no government money involved at all. This is private enterprise. This is raising funds in the community so that they don't have the strings attached to, the government, which never has solved anything, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is where the initial investment came from to purchase the land and the houses so that it could become self-sustaining. So you said it was private money. Was this a nonprofit went out and raised money, or was it some individuals got together and said, let's all pitch in? Do you know how that got going?
I'm going to be clear. I'm not on the board at Community First. I'm not part of it. I've just spent a lot of time out there. I know them well. I know how it got there. But they, got like HEB, for example, is a huge grocery store chain in Texas, very well known.
I love them.
We love HEB. They're very philanthropic, and they were one of the original. And then also put a mini grocery store out there. And there are others. Alamo Draft House is a really big chain here in Austin and Central Texas, and they actually put a movie theater out there. There's literally an outdoor movie theater, an amphitheater, which seats about 400 people. And Community First is connecting to the community. Like if you were here, Leigh, you could go on a Friday night and see a movie with the neighbors that are out there, and then the neighbors are working, serving popcorn and Cokes and getting tips and all that. And so they're always connecting to the community, so they're not on an island. But that's where the money originally started. And what was really impressive early on, and this, like, I almost cry every time I hear this, but of the maybe first 80 or so businesses and trusts and people that got involved to kickstart this, like 78 of them remained anonymous. It wasn't about getting your logo on the side of a building. It just really was stunning that there aren't banners hanging everywhere with everybody's logo, which is, kind of our nature, especially in the real estate business. We want to get our name on everything. And that was really touching to me. And now it's taken off. I have no idea what their budget is now, but it's in the millions of dollars because now they're buying land, developing, growing it, and learning from the first one. That
Sure.
we figure the next ones are going to be even more impactful. But there's, for example, Leigh, there's an auto shop out there where they teach auto mechanics, and you can go get your oil changed and get some work done. Like, to me, I look around and go, how genius is that? I mean, it's really needed. So it's just amazing to go out there.
Everything you're talking about with this project is sustainable. And I think that's the thing that is just so intriguing to me, because if you look at the general conversation around homeless, it's, well, build a hotel, stick them in a hotel, stick them in a house. That's not sustainable. But when you give somebody the dignity of, yes, you are participating, this is yours, and you are part of it, that builds pride. When you're building job skills and training, you're actually giving them a different future where they say, okay, I don't have to live in this community forever if I don't want to, because I can start my own business. And you look at the hands-on trades are so sustainable, and maybe they already had a business mind. They just never tapped into it before. So you're talking about really expansive things that go to the core of dignity, which is where you keep driving back to what this community has done. It's providing dignity to people who just got lost. And we're in a world where we feel so uber connected by these devices, but we can so easily go into a silo and lose connection with people. And we see it every day. I love what this is doing. And the fact that it's got expansion capabilities is fantastic because now you have metrics to go behind it. It's not just some pipe dream of somebody online who says, "What if we did this?" Now it's got metrics and you've got people there. So,
And
in the
it
time that it's gone on, are people staying there? Are they using it as a launch pad? They're there for a year or 2 years, and then they have gone back into the full community.
I would say from what I've seen, most are staying there. It's not, you would want it to be a launch pad, but because of the, mental illness and some of the things going on, they might not be able to be out, but
Sure.
they're very comfortable there. And I don't know the data around it, but I would say probably 60, 70% stay there. I know I was there yesterday morning, helped serve breakfast. Super fun. I mean, literally, I'm on cloud nine every time I drive away from that place. And I was seeing faces that were there day one, still seeing them there. This has become their home, and they probably can't imagine themselves anywhere else as
Well, that's
well.
true because you built community. I
Yep.
mean, it all goes back to that.
And they do, if you don't pay your rent, you will have to leave. I mean, they'll do everything humanly possible not to have someone get removed, but it will happen. There are consequences. There is a personal responsibility is something that's being taught and out there as well, so that they feel vested in their community. And I think that's super important in building up dignity.
So I want to talk briefly about the services. You've mentioned that a couple of times that it's not just the tiny houses and the movie theater, the grocery stores. You've got services there. We all know that it's very common in the homeless community that there are mental health crises all the time. There's obviously drug addiction that is causing people to get trapped in these cycles. So are the services related to helping people break those chains of addiction?
Yes, there are, and I think when it first started, there wasn't a lot because you didn't know what exactly the needs were. But now
Right.
there's primary health care out there, and there'll be a sponsor for that. There'll be one of the local hospitals that'll put a clinic out there and have it staffed. There's case management. Everybody has a case manager to help them with what their particular situation is. Definitely recovery support for addiction and recovery services. And there's quite a bit of community space out there. Like, for example, yesterday when I was there at breakfast, they have a community space called the living room, and set up was a little table with Cap Metro. Cap Metro is our bus system in Austin. And they were there sitting down one on one with those that needed help with their bus card, or maybe they'd lost their bus card, or, identification in that community is really difficult. A lot don't have proper IDs. So there's services to help with that. And now there's nutrition counseling as well out there, and I think some of it evolves really based around need. Whatever the blueprint is now is probably completely different from when they started. And I'll give you an example of something that kind of impressed me is in this community there's a lot of pets. There's just a lot of pets, and that's
Right.
great. But those pets led to dog food, and the dog food led to a critter management problem, in the community. Just it's very natural, right? So they had a vendor come in and sponsor once a week. There's dog food that's brought in. You have your own container, a special container with a lid, and you get free dog food as long as you bring your container to the dog, where the dog food is distributed. And I know it sounds really simple, but I really impressed how they saw a problem. What is a way we can solve this that'll be good for the whole community? So now everybody gets free dog food and cat food. They have to use a container that was given to them in the start. That container alleviates dog food being laying around all over the community. Thus, the problem with pests and went away, or at least was mitigated. And that's a great example of just adapting, coming up with the brainstorming an idea and delivering.
Well, it's personalization, right? So you realize that for somebody to make it to the next step in their journey, they may need that support
Yeah.
animal because we know that dogs and cats are gigantic supporters when it comes to emotional health and when it comes to, I mean, just all kinds of benefits that come from pets. And if that's what somebody needs, those security systems are built in to personalize it for them. And I love that because this goes back to everything you keep saying. There's dignity when people notice who you are, what your needs are, and address your needs, but also driving home the point that it's got to be good for the whole community. And I think we can all agree that making somebody else's life stronger is better for all of our communities. It's not about handouts, it's about rebuilding somebody. This is that hand up concept that
Yep.
Habitat for Humanity's done for years.
Yes.
It's not just a handout. It's what do we do to make your life stronger so that you can survive and do better?
And often it's a trust issue also as
Right.
well. My work on the streets, and I have several friends that we've been able to move from a street corner to a little house out there. But there's a lot of distrust in the beginning, so it takes a long time to build those relationships. And one thing I learned early on is I have a young lady named Emily who we brought off the streets out there, and then great home, planted her in there, and she had trouble staying. She wanted to go back to the streets. And what I learned was here's this person that had, 100 friendships every 45 seconds at a red light. She knew people, she waved at people, all this. And then she got out there, we put her in a house, we did everything to fill well, plopped her in, gave her a TV, a chair, and then left, basically.
Oh,
Not quite that dramatic, but left, and then realized she's just on an island. And so we learned from that, we can't just put somebody in a home. We have to be around them, stay in contact with them, listen to them is really important. And it really helps our realtor community in the sense that they want to help, but like you said early on, how do you get involved? And ABOR, Austin Board of Realtors, we donated $1 million through our foundation to Community First. And we are connected with them now, and we have all sorts of volunteer events where our agents will come together who don't know each other, not necessarily from the same brokerage, meet out there and serve breakfast, call bingo, which by the way is the most fun thing out there is calling bingo. I've done it several times and it's just
you
hilarious.
do love a microphone in a show, Kent. Let's just be honest. I
I do
mean,
love a microphone in a show. I'll tell you something funny. I was out there calling bingo for the very first time. 80 people, 80 neighbors in the room getting ready to do their bingo. And I said, hey, I want to tell you my favorite bingo joke. And they just all stared at me. And then I said, okay, who's my favorite Beatle? Of the Beatles, the music group, who's my favorite Beatle? Crickets. Nobody said a word. And I said, Bingo Star. Crickets. And some guy in the back of the room said, hey, just call the numbers, buddy. Most humbling moment for me, but stinking hilarious. But
I
it's
guess
just,
they weren't into the dad jokes at the
they
moment,
just
but
not
we all
into
have our moments.
not into that at all. But anyway, just an incredible community. And now it's a replicable model. I mean, we're 10 years in. There's cities from all over the country and the world coming in, meeting the board, meeting Alan Graham, the founder, and they give tours every single day. Golf courts are constantly giving tours, which, by the way, a neighbor will be a part of that. A neighbor will be hired to drive the golf court, right? So there's lots of jobs. And it's being replicated across the country now. So because the model is getting a little more well defined.
Well, I want to point out something you said that is obviously easy to do if we get really focused on it. When your association made a decision to give a gift from the foundation, you didn't just write a check. And I see so often with our philanthropic ideas and with our foundations, we write a check, pat ourselves on the back, and move on. When ABOR, Austin Board of Realtors, wrote that check, you also dialed in. You
Yeah.
used the check as, hey, we are so vested here. We want to bring our members in to be a part of this community to help make everything stronger. If all of us, with our charitable giving, instead of just writing a check and walking on, if we wrote a check and then did something with it, what could the next level look like, Kent? I mean, it could really expand when you consider there's realtors in every zip code. There's small businesses everywhere that if they said, well, if we banded together and took our dollars and then didn't just use the dollars, but used the dollars as an entry point, it could really get big. I love that y'all are so intentional about that.
And not everybody can write a check too. There's those that think I don't know what to do. I don't know where to
I
start.
don't have
I
$1,000,000.
don't have $1,000,000. I don't have $1,000. Where do I start? And because I can do so very little, I'm just not going to do anything, right? There's just that mentality. And I encourage everybody that that's okay. Just show up for one thing, make one friend. It's just really one friend at a time, and sit down at the backgammon table or the cards or with their breakfast taco and introduce yourself. It will change your life. And it's not scary. They're just God loved humans just like we are, and you make that relationship, and then it becomes easier once you do it, and we get to talking to people. And I just encourage everybody, don't not do anything because you feel like you can't do much. Just make one new friend. You will
And
change
isn't that
your
everything in life? It
mm,
it feels big, it feels scary until you finally jump in and you're like, "Oh, this was delightful." Kinda like jumping in the pool.
yeah, exactly.
We learned that as kids. Mm.
It's not as cold as we thought.
No, you get used to it, and then you're fine.
Hmm.
So I am curious. I know that you've mentioned a couple of corporate sponsors and the trade associations are working together on this. Has the faith community leaned into this as a way to expand their outreach and be helpful?
Yes, it has. And Mobile Loaves and Fishes is actually started out of St. John Newman's Church, Catholic Church here in Austin. So the organization is very deep in faith. I don't think they claim to say they're a faith-based organization. I'm pretty sure they probably don't go to that extreme, but it's all through there. God blesses everywhere. They have a chapel out there. There are churches that come and set up and do church services. So Community First and Mobile Loaves and Fishes, have the fingerprints of Christ all over it, and there's no doubt about it. And the faith community is very involved as well. Most any of the churches in town will have a youth group out there helping clean up on a weekend, Saturday morning from 9 to 12. And it's not hard work, but it gives you a chance to feel some normalcy around a community that you don't feel comfortable around usually, because your only interaction has been at an intersection, right? So it gives that entry period that's a soft landing for people, and then it grows their heart from there, from what I've seen.
Well, it's partnerships, and
Mhm.
everything you've mentioned here is the everybody's leaning in and they're expanding so they can make one person's life better. And when you talk about these intersections, I have to tell you, Instagram knows what I'm going to look at. They send me chickens and running and faith-based things. And so I saw this video the other day, and it was, of course, the guy in the car behind. They were at a stoplight, and some fella had, or lady, I don't know who it was, had rolled down the window of a minivan, and the panhandler was standing there. This person was hugging this homeless person, and they put anointing oil on them and prayed with them.
Aw.
And I'm sitting there bawling. I sent it to one of my girlfriends, and she's bawling too. We're like, we've not been doing ministry right, because this person didn't just roll down their window and hand a Ziploc bag, which, by the way, y'all, that's fantastic. It's something. And I'm
Yeah,
not wanting to diminish when you do something.
100%.
But my goodness, this fella didn't hand over stuff. They prayed with this person and anointed them. And of course, it's also another reason to never read comment threads, because the comments were either super positive or super ugly about you should have done something more for them. But if the best thing you can do for somebody is noticing them, prayer goes with that, which goes
Mhm.
with the job skills and the rents and the names and the dignity. It all starts to really work in when you hit all the layers. And I love it so much what you guys are doing. All
I
right.
know
So
next time you're in Austin, you need to ping us. I'd love to take you out for a tour.
anytime.
Your mouth will just be like, "Wow, I've never seen anything like that." I literally say it's the greatest place on earth.
Well,
Love being out there.
I had people trying to get me to come to Austin a couple of months ago for some other things, and I wasn't able to work it out. But the next time I jump on a plane from Charlotte to Austin, you and I are going to have a date riding around and doing some do-gooder stuff. And I'll bring my anointing oil, and we'll pray over some people. And
Oh, I would love that. I'd be thrilled.
I mean, it's kind of Assemblies of God Pentecostals. I don't know what the Catholics will say, but probably they'll put up with it. It's fine.
Yeah, we're thinking too hard when we get that far. You just show up and love on them one at a time.
See, and that's what makes life better. So God can do the great sorting out later if we just take care of each other right now. So, Kent, if somebody wants to reach out to you to find out more about how maybe you can walk them through getting started as an individual, or you can connect them to the resources at the Austin board, or you can connect them to Community First. What is the best way for people to get a hold of Kent Redding?
Really, just at Kent Redding. Just go online at Kent Redding. You can find me on all the social platforms, and I would be thrilled to take anybody out there and talk about Community First, talk about our local real estate environment, of course, as well. Would love that.
And by the way, y'all, I know Emily didn't give permission, but Kent and I are fairly confident that if you reach out to the Austin Board of Realtors for information about how your association, your brokerage, your business could find a way to engage in your foundation, I bet you $1 she'll talk to you about that. Don't you think so, Kent? She'd be good with
100%,
that. All right.
100%. You bet. Yeah,
She loves having me volunteer her because I know how proud she is to work for an organization that loves doing great things in the community and being led by people like you, Kent. So thank you so much for your leadership in real estate, for your leadership with your clients and with your business and how you do things so well, and for your leadership in just making Austin a better place for everybody who lives there. I'm just so grateful to call you a friend and have you on the show again. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you. I love you, Leigh, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
I love you too. And friends, if you want to see the first episode with Kent, the link's right over here. Send him a little note, put a comment here that is something you learned about this community and what you can do at home. And most importantly, hit the bell so you can come back and visit with us again.
Now, if this episode brought you value, made you laugh, cry, or in between, then don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this with somebody else in the real estate trenches. You'll find a Real Talk with Leigh Brown on every major podcast app, so hit follow, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Don't forget to DM me if you've got a story. I might just want to feature you next.